Hey, so for the hashes episode, this is gonna be even quicker than the array ones, since we just covered arrays and hashes are quite similar, but are even more powerful, I would say. So what are hashes? Hashes, they basically allow you to store data inside of what's also similar to a list. But the difference is that you store them with what we call a key and a value pair. So for every key that you have inside of a hash, this key has a value. And whenever you call that key, the hash spits out the value. That sounds very confusing, but the idea is very simple. So let's go ahead and just cover an example. Now, let's say I have a hash called, for example, groceries prices. And inside of this hash, we want to store the prices for items that you can find at your grocery store. And the way, first of all, that we define a hash is with the curly brackets. And then we would give it a key and a value. So in that case, the key would be the, the name of the grocery item. So let's say a banana, and the value would be the price of this banana. And so let's give it just a random value. Let's say a banana is €2. And so basically every time I call the banana key from this hash, I would get its price. And so we can go ahead and store a few more items in there. Apple are 1. And again, cherries. Cherries are expensive. Let's put them 9. Crazy. All right, so now we have 3 key value pairs. And so if we go ahead and just print out the whole hash, we can see that we get the whole hash just printed back, but that's not really what we want. So what we want here is to specify exactly which key that we want from this hash. So if I would say, give me the value of the key banana, like this, very similar to arrays, and we run this, you can see that I get the value 2. Now, that's a great way for storing data because you basically give names to your list and you can access them with this name instead of an index as we saw in arrays. So a quick little method that you can see on hashes, sorry. A method that Ruby gives you as well, a built-in method, is called .keys, and this will basically, calling .keys on your hash is going to give you back a list in an array of all the keys that you have inside of this hash. And you can see that I get all the keys. And that's great basically because it allows you to do things inside of your application much faster. You can do the same with values, just showing you those built-in methods. The idea behind this is just so that you understand that there is also a lot of built-in Ruby methods and that going through the documentation will help you do things much faster because they are already there, right? We're not trying to repeat the wheel here. We're trying to use the tools that we are given. Now, that's pretty much it about hashes, but just one quick other example that I wanted to give is a user hash because that's something that is more realistic, let's say. So let's say we have user1 as a hash, and that hash basically has a name. So quick note, another way to define hashes, the keys, is with this syntax. So you can just give it the symbol and then you give it the value. And so the name, for example, would be Hassan. My age, 23. Adult, true. And a thing that you can do inside of a hash is actually have an array inside of that hash. So for example, if the user1 has languages, right? The languages that I can speak. And since I speak more than one language, because I'm very cool, you can actually pass in an array of the languages. So Spanish, French, Arabic, and English, but we all know that, so let's just keep it like this. Great. So now we have a hash for the user, and it holds different data types. So we can see that it's holding a Boolean, an integer, a string, and an array, which is very important, right? Because once you start working with real world applications, this is the kind of data that you might be getting. And it just works the same way, basically. So, well, if we print out the whole user hash, we will get what we saw before. So we get the whole object. And if we specify here, I just want the name, we'll get the name. And just to show you that the array also works, and there you go. And you can even actually, since you get an array back, you can even specify that you only want the first language. So the index of 0, and you would get it back. So just showing you here that it's just everything is pretty much the same thing. It's just data, and you're just accessing, adding, removing, or updating this data and just playing with it. All right, guys. This was very vague again and very quick, but don't worry, because in the next episodes, these are the kind of things that we are actually going to be playing around with, and hopefully eventually just building little projects with hashes and arrays. And the more we do this, the more we use them, the more it's going to make sense. Ciao.